May I introduce you to my son, Seamus?
How do you do? How do you do?
To whom have I the honor of speaking?
My name's Redmond Barry.
How do you do, Mr. Barry? And now I'm afraid we must get on to the more regrettable stage of our brief acquaintance. Turn around. And keep your hands high above your head, please.
Barry Lyndon is not only one of Stanley Kubrick's most beautifully crafted films, but it's one of the most beautifully crafted artworks ever put to film. Despite the fact that it was nominated for and won several Academy Awards, well-known filmmakers and artists like Martin Scorsese, Lars von Trier, and Steven Spielberg consider it to be one of the best films ever made, and everyone who has seen the film at the very least considers it to be a technical marvel, Stanley Kubrick at the time considered it to be a failure due to it being a financial dud and box office flop. This is one of the reasons why people speculate that Kubrick went on to adapt Stephen King's horror novel The Shining right after Barry Lyndon. This way he could easily make up his financial losses and regain his box office confidence. But to me, financial success and artistic merit are two different things, and what really puts artistic merit to the test is if it's able to withstand the test of time. And with Barry Lyndon, it's arguably gotten better with time and has aged like a fine cheese. So even though it's developed overwhelming support from kino lords like myself, I still can't help but shake the feeling that a bunch of people continue to sleep on this film for a number of reasons, including the fact that on the surface, to a lot of people, this film kind of just feels like a standard boring period piece. That, and on top of the fact that I think it's just overshadowed by his other masterful works like 2001: A Space Odyssey, Clockwork Orange, and Full Metal Jacket, that on the surface just seem a lot more alluring and does a better job at drawing audiences in. And I could sit here and give you guys a million reasons to watch Barry Lyndon, and honestly the only reason I needed was the fact that it was a Stanley Kubrick film. But just to put things simply, I'm going to condense all that into just 3 reasons as to why you should watch Barry Lyndon right now. So we have to first address Barry Lyndon's stunning aesthetic beauty. Many argue that this is Kubrick's most beautifully shot film, and I don't really bother arguing with those people because I don't have a single good argument against it. I know everybody says this about Barry Lyndon, but I have to also say it because it's just true. Every frame of this film looks like an 18th century painting. Okay, maybe not every single frame, that might be a bit overdramatic, but literally 95 to 99% of this film, you could pause and it will appear to be a stunning painting from the 18th century. Kubrick was dedicated to using only real on-set locations as opposed to stage constructions as most period pieces up to this point were made. That, combined with a team of knowledgeable crew members who have an understanding of 18th century art, a dedicated eye for framing, blocking, color, and use of natural lighting, is what allowed Kubrick to be able to achieve the film's aesthetic beauty. As opposed to popular belief, not every scene is lit solely through natural lighting. But to be fair, the overwhelming majority of the film is purely lit through natural means, which means no artificial studio lights were used to assist Kubrick in achieving his aesthetic. Take this wide candle lit scene for instance. Kubrick essentially made history here. This is the first time that a scene this large was solely lit through candlelight. He was able to achieve this by using numerous large candles, but most importantly, using a specifically crafted lens from NASA that was specifically engineered for the 1966 Apollo mission to capture the far side of the moon. Can you imagine that as a filmmaker, you're able to just call up NASA and be like, hey, you know that super rare and expensive lens that you use to capture the dark side of the moon? Do you think I can just buy that from you guys? And they're just like, sure, Stanley. Anything for the guy that directed the moon landing. Nah, I'm joking. I'm crazy, but I'm not that damn crazy. Anyway, the film also uses an abundance of zoom in and zoom out shots that not only have a wonderful aesthetic look, but also contain a thematic purpose as well. And I can see people saying that there's a little too much of the use of zoom shots in this film, but I personally find it difficult to critique it when every one of them is just done masterfully. But with all that being said, just know that the aesthetic presentation of this film is unlike any film that I've personally ever seen. The set decoration, the art direction, the mise-en-scène, the use of natural lighting, the costume design, the color palette, the musical score, and just all of that necessary aesthetic stuff is directed and presented in one of the most glorious and visually stunning ways I've ever seen put to film. And that alone is one giant reason to give Barry Lyndon a watch. Another aspect of this film that I just absolutely love is the layered complexity of the character Barry Lyndon itself, and also the kind of societal themes that is expressed through Barry Lyndon's character throughout the film. Barry Lyndon is a character study film as much as it is a social satire. Barry Lyndon is a rise and fall story that expresses and explores the character traits of Barry and how it leads to both his rise to power and his downward spiral. The choices he makes in the first half of the film are very similar to the kinds of choices he makes in the second half, but are both used in different circumstances, which in turn results in different outcomes. He's a character that, in my opinion, isn't rebellious by nature, but rebellious due to a lack of a father figure, which results in him feeling that there's always something to prove and yearns for that fatherly connection throughout the film. But what I love about his character is that it exposes the elusive common notion of meritocracy. Obviously, 18th century England and modern capitalist societies are different in many salient ways, but there's an aligned societal truth that is exposed by Barry's character. And that truth is, a combination of luck, ass-kissing, and a little bit of strategic cucking can bring you great financial success and can allow you to climb higher to the top more than decades of dedicated hard work would ever bring you. Life seems to continuously hand him opportunities throughout the film, and he always seems to capitalize on them, whether it takes some genuine self-sacrifice or is just plain selfish and deplorable. But due to how his character is written and acted out, you can't help but have some sort of respect for him by the end of the film, especially after he makes one of the most honorable choices during the best duel scene that I've ever seen in the third act. So another huge reason to see this film is because it has an incredibly complex character that is written to perfection, and even though it has plenty of instances of being a horrible person, you just really can't help but admire and care for him by the end of the film. And it's also an incredibly relevant social satire that's explored through his character throughout his entire journey. So this last reason is a lot simpler than the previous two, but it's important for people to know, and I think would encourage a lot of people to check it out. Barry Lyndon is absolutely filled with memorable scenes that will be impossible for anybody to forget. I hadn't seen this film for a year, but I gave it a rewatch before making this video, and I was stunned by how much of the film I actually remembered. It's a 3-hour epic jam-packed with all kinds of amazing stuff that makes a photographic imprint. The duel scenes are some of the best I've ever seen put to film. There's a classy highway robbery scene that is both hilarious and tragic. There's 2 fight scenes involving Barry where each one represents a rise and a fall. There's a few war action scenes that are intense and beautifully shot. There are mountains of scenes involving intense internal family struggles, and as mentioned in my first reason to watch Barry Lyndon, pretty much every scene is shot like a meticulous painting and leaves behind some unforgettable images unlike anything you'll ever see put to film. So with all that being said, please go watch Barry Lyndon if you haven't seen it already. And if you have seen it already, go watch it again. And even though you saw it yesterday, just go watch it again, because this is a film that I really feel like never gets old, no matter how long it is. Because this is like a 3-hour and 5-minute film, so it's a really long film, but you don't really feel like any part of this film should be cut out. It's a film that honestly flies by for a 3-hour film, and that's because this entire film is meticulously crafted for a purpose, and it's one of the most stunning films that I've ever seen, and I do think it is the overlooked Kubrick masterpiece that deserves a lot more attention. I know it gets a lot of attention from, again, like Kino lords like myself, but it needs a lot more attention just from the general public who know about The Shining, know about 2001, know about Clockwork. And I'm sure a lot of them know about Barry Lyndon, but they just kind of continue to just push it to the side when this really should be a must-see on your watch list. But anyways, those are my 3 reasons why you should go watch Barry Lyndon right now. And hope you enjoyed everything I had to say about Barry Lyndon. And if you really enjoyed this video, please make sure to give it a like and share it amongst your friends. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel to be updated on more film-related content.